It's Shriz, and today we're doing anime bad reviews, where I sit down, look up an anime on something like my anime list, and see what people just don't like about the show. What do they put in these bad reviews? I've done a few of these videos before that were well received, but it's been a while considering all the ReZero content I've been uploading, which you should totally check out if you enjoy ReZero, by the way. I figured I'd bring back the series, Reading Bad Reviews, ReZero edition.
Okay.
So I guess it's time to take a sip out of my Amelia mug and hop to my anime list. Let's go. Oh wow, a lot of people gave this show a 10. Let's go, baby. And after much scrolling, it appears I have found my first 1-star review by It's Roxas. This anime doesn't make sense at all. I already see where this is starting, okay? We have a non-intellectual here. Imagine not understanding ReZero. Come on, guys. But honestly, I tried to get my friend to watch the show, and even though they only watched like one episode, which explains a lot.
So much pain! So much pain!
They said it didn't make much sense either, but I'm assuming this person watched more. Let's see. I can agree that the show has an interesting premise and tries its best to be something original, but in most episodes it seems like the writer itself doesn't really know where to take the story. Okay, now this is interesting because me personally, I think the writer knows exactly what he's doing, and here's one reason I think he does, and here's one reason I think you might not think he does. The first reason to me why I think he knows what he's doing as far as where the plot's going is because of what if stories. He makes what if stories. And although it's on April Fools, which kind of makes it sound like a joke, still he's thought about the story so much in depth that he can take a story and turn it into something completely different just based off the choices the character makes, and even prolongs that and makes it a pretty nice size what if stories and spin-offs. So that by itself to me makes me think that he knows what he's doing whenever he's writing this and he has some type of goal in mind. In my opinion, you really know a story if you can branch out and turn it into spin-offs or what ifs. And obviously we're going to keep reading this, but one reason I think you might think this guy doesn't know what he's doing is because of the complexity. The story does have a lot of complexity. It's not exactly straightforward. In my opinion, it's not generic. Some people don't like not knowing the overarching goal or having an immediate idea of who the bad guys are. And in this story, the complexities are all around. People you assume are bad might be good. And in the future, people who you thought were good might end up being bad. With a constant amount of characters being added to the story over the series, with different mini plots or basically side quests, make it a little bit more complicated, and some people don't like that, I guess. Or it can confuse people, and that's okay too. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. Subaru is just transported into a fantasy world and immediately accepts it without ever questioning where or how he got here, or even try to at least go back to his own world. The character is simply one-dimensional and have no personality at all, and it just seems like lifeless robots who are simply there to complete a harem circle. Okay, let's take that one step at a time. Me and you can disagree on this type of thing, 100%. Whether or not you think the character should question while they're in the other world or not. I'm sure you find it not typical for somebody to just kind of not question things and go with it, which I don't either, but I personally find that a cool thing, like an interesting thing about this specific character. As opposed to being freaked out as people would expect, he's simply like, okay, let's make do. And a matter of fact, let's make the most out of this. And because of that, sometimes I personally forget that it's an Isekai every once in a while, just because of how unworried he is about the other world. But that's something that I find endearing, but I don't blame some people for not liking it. And then the part about the characters being one-dimensional, no personalities, and just basically being added to a harem. I get some of the harem vibes, I see what you're saying there. As far as characters being one-dimensional, I don't really think so. The only character that I think doesn't really change that much, no matter how much Subaru dies, is Amelia, and she's one of my favorite characters in the series, so I don't find that an issue. But as far as other characters go, like I'm sure whenever you're talking about this harem, you're talking about like Beatrice and Rim. But to me, Subaru had to work on these two characters to be able to endear himself within those two. As a matter of fact, Rim killed him at one point for her own reasons. And then there's also been times that Beatrice has saved Subaru or just doesn't care what happens to him. And with those changes, I would actually kind of call it the dynamic character. And although Rim goes on to really just like Subaru and do whatever he wants for the most part. And then recently at the end of season 2 in the anime, Beatrice kind of tagged along. Both of them took some character development to get to that point. And calling them lifeless characters, in my opinion, would be like kind of like calling them a static character. Someone who doesn't really change over time. But for how much it took for those two to even adore Subaru the way that they do, especially Rim, I would actually call them dynamic characters that aren't lifeless. And it took a while to get to where they are. And it might not even stay that way. Matter of fact, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it doesn't stay that way for one reason or another. And honestly, I don't want to read the complete rest of it because we got more reviews to do. But there was another point he was making about the relationship between Amelia and Subaru feeling fake. And while I don't agree, if I looked at it from a certain perspective, there's probably a reason for that. Part of the reason that it's so one-dimensional and why Subaru pushes so hard. And it's right there at the very beginning of the series. Subaru has memories that Amelia doesn't have of her doing so much more for him than he has done for her. In his head, at least. That's how he justifies it. And so obviously it confuses her, and it does make it seem a little weird. But obviously it's going to be weird if somebody has memories of somebody else that the other person doesn't have. But even in that case, it's pretty much sorted itself out quite a bit over time. And I would say this review is probably pretty early in the series. Okay, let's move on to another review. Alright, let's check out Pony-chan's review, overall rating 3. I'll give the guy credit. He started off by saying the review contains some minor spoilers. Salute to you, man. Okay, so this dude wrote like a 3-page essay. Let's go to his summary. Because before that, generally people just try to convince you on why they're right with a bunch of nonsensical things that don't make sense. But once they get to the conclusion or summary, they basically just straight up say things that they don't like. So let's look at it. Let's see, the premise was okay, but the actual story was bad. To put it mildly, characters are atrocious and drag the whole show down. The rest is unremarkable. Characters are atrocious and drag down the whole show. What does that mean? Not specific characters, just all characters? And while I was scrolling by, I'm pretty sure it attributes to something the last review said, talking about harem-esque things. So that might be what he means, but pretty sure not everybody's in the harem, man. Who knows, maybe Reinhardt will join one day. Anyways, he says he can fix the show. Let's check it out. However, I actually have an idea of how to salvage this show in the second season, if there is one. Oh, so he did this review in the first season, which, to be honest, if you don't like the first season, probably won't like the second season, because even though the show does progress in a lot of different ways, let's be honest, people hang on to their first impressions a lot. Probably noticed that I used the word retarded and unremarkable a lot. No, I didn't notice. I didn't read it. That's of course because most of the show is retarded and the rest is just unremarkable. The fact that most discussions about the show are waifu wars also confirm it. Okay, I will admit that ReZero has waifu wars that are just uncanny, but I would say it isn't most. Personally, the videos that I make, the discussions I see on Reddit, as well as other YouTubers that make videos on ReZero, generally don't partake in this stuff, and neither do the comment sections, and I actually find it really intriguing what people have to say about the show usually. People debating theories and everything, I love that stuff. But I must confess, I have seen a lot of waifu wars as well, specifically the Amelia and Rim Camp. When someone says that the show is great, keep in mind, what they probably mean is, I like one of the maids, the lolly, the half-elf. Even if the best part of the show is waifus, then it completely fails since they're so bland and uninteresting. Listen. First of all, I gotta say, I, like most anime fans, do enjoy the waifus being in the show. Waifus are great. They're part of anime, baby. But for me and most of the people that I've seen in my comments on the ReZero videos I've made, people aren't too worried about that. People are actually worried about substance. And it for sure is not my personal favorite part of the show. But I'm starting to get an idea of what this guy really thinks. Even though he has his own opinions about the show that maybe he doesn't like, it really gets reinforced by some of the people that he sees in the communities talking about just waifus and this and that. But in my opinion, that applies to every anime, so I don't really know if I can give him that. And then he goes on to recommend Steins Gate as a good time travel anime, which by the way, it is really good. You guys should check it out. As well as also saying basically good luck with looking for good isekais. So this guy just doesn't like isekais, period. Right now, the show is rated at 8.77 on my anime list, which is a complete disgrace. Originally, I rated the show a 4. I did so because it was horrible, but I still watched it. Unfortunately, it committed the worst sin any show can commit. It became really boring. Yada yada yada. Why do people like the show? I'm surprised so many people do. And he says that I know everyone is entitled to an opinion, but it's a stupid one. Wow, that really hurt my feelings, guys. Let me sip on some of Echidna's tea and think about my life. Don't care. But yeah, obviously he just didn't like the show, and then if you don't like the show but you keep watching it, it gets more boring. Honestly, stupid move in my opinion. I don't know if he gets paid to make my anime list reviews, and that's why he decided to watch the rest of it anyways. By the way, yeah, I know he doesn't. And you know, I'm the type of guy to usually tell people, you know, give it a few episodes, see if you really like it first. But for this guy, trust me, I would not have told him that. I would have been like 3 episodes, take it or leave it, man. We don't want a full-blown review talking about why you hate waifu wars. Next up, we got R Trill. Overall rating 3. Never mind, as I was reviewing this, it seems that he says he hasn't watched much anime. Moving on. One Lost Soul. Overall rating 2. I am usually not one to write reviews, but I feel like I have to on this one, to help someone save their time that they can never take back. You know what, if that's the real reason you're writing this review, then honestly, I salute you. You're not just a regular reviewer, this isn't what you do, not a hobby of yours. You feel like trying to help people out. Although me and you are probably about to disagree, I'm going to dissect some things here, with my own opinion, of course. I must say, that's a pretty nice thing to do. Taking into account your own experience to save someone else from having a bad experience. Quite noble. I got sucked into this anime because I made the mistake of trusting the hype train on this one. After watching it, I have no idea why this anime was so hyped. Ah, yes, it's a recurring theme in a lot of the videos that I do on these. People buying into this absurd hype. Something that even I, as a young anime watcher, someone new to this whole business, knew not to do. Because even if something's great, if you overhype it like it's that times 10, you're obviously going to be a little underwhelmed. I made this analogy in a previous video. You give me 12 cookies and I'm very happy because I'm a big Oreo fan. But if you say you're going to give me 100 Oreos and then you only give me 12, I'm kind of pissed. Or maybe I'm not pissed because I'm grateful, but I'm still a little disappointed because you lied. 12 Oreos is not close to 100, no matter how much I like them. The story starts off with an interesting premise in the first couple episodes, and then quickly revolves into a shell of what its potential could have been. There are only 2 characters that undergo any type of real character development, and it is shallow at best. Hey, could you name those 2 characters, please? I can't stand when people do these vague things, man. I just want to debate and give my opinions on things. But when there's not enough information to debate, I'm just kind of like, okay. He's probably talking about Subaru and Rim, though. That tends to be what people are leaning toward whenever they say that. Not to mention, this guy is thrusted into another world, keeps dying and going back. And because of this, it seems like he's known characters for months. But really, it has only been a few weeks tops. And already has formed deep bonds with many of the characters, including love and admiration for some. That's a hell of a complaint. I really like that about the story, man. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Amelia and Subaru, where Subaru had more experience with her than she had with him. And that applies to other characters as well. Rim and Subaru, Ram and Subaru, Beatrice as well. I always thought that was a cool dynamic. I kept watching it hoping that the plot would get going somewhere, but it never did. You are left asking more questions by the end of the anime than when you started. And not in the good way. The whole world he seems to have been transported to is extremely shallow the whole way through, and hardly anything is ever explained. Okay, if you're an anime only watcher, and maybe this guy just watched the first season, although I loved it within literally like the first few episodes, so I'm biased. The reason it seems that way is because it's a very complex plot. And the thing about complex plots are they aren't linear. They take steps back, they go forward, they get in ruts. And the simple truth is this story is going to be around for many, many years with a lot of content and a lot of things to have to go back and relate to. And my point in saying is, like, in a 12 episode anime, like I'm talking about the full series, 12 episodes, things move very quickly. The plot progresses astonishingly quick because you have a beginning, you have a climax, and you have a resolution. And when that's in a short period of time, it makes the show go faster, and a lot of shows adapt this. While some also do this but then keep the show going on longer than it should, which is not a good thing. But like I said, to me, I loved it from the get-go. But if you look at a story that's going to be as big as this one will be, and you take this small segment of it, of course it's not going to like much has changed in the grand scheme of things. But even on that note, like I said, I would still disagree. I feel like a lot happened that I really enjoyed. Basically like a bunch of little mini quests being completed. I thought it was dope. And then exactly what I just said applies to the more questions that he was talking about, ending the anime with more questions than answers. Got a lot of plot, man. A lot of background, a lot of different moving parts. That's just how it is. Look, this story and world building and character building in this anime were honestly so terribly bad. I could go on for a long time on it. But I'm sorry, I'm just not one of those people who can write a college paper on anime that frustrated me to this extent. Hey man, it's okay. We understand. We understand. As a matter of fact, one of these reviews was just like a whole essay that I did not want to read. That's why I skipped to the summary. So to be honest, I respect that. Especially when I'm pretty sure that no one will ever read this. I should leave a comment on it or something just to make them know that somebody sat there and actually read this. Although I don't think he'll be too happy with the results. At least he know it made a difference somehow. So the next part of that paragraph was pretty vague and I'm not exactly sure what to make of it, so we're going to move on to a different section of it. Art-wise, there are a few episodes and scenes that are well done, but as the anime goes, the quality very noticeably drops. Really, after the first 3 episodes, it becomes apparent, but there are some scenes where it's good again, specifically some ending scenes. I know what happened, man. You saw the scene with Amelia with like all the spirits and stuff that looked really good, and you were just like, why can't it always look like this? But ebbs and flows and how scenes look and stuff, that happens in a lot of different animes because you have more cinematic scenes and then more plotty scenes. So I don't know if that's what you mean, and I kind of doubt it, but I'm going to pretend that's what you mean, and I'd say that's a pretty normal thing. Character designs. There was honestly so many lolly characters it was disgusting. Is this really what anime is becoming? Hey, are you hating on Beatrice? You leave Beatrice alone, okay? And in my opinion, I don't think it was done just to be done. I believe it's just one of those things that writers put into the plot to let you know that things just aren't as they seem. Like with Beatrice looking like a lolly, but at the same time being like however years old and having all that wisdom and being so strong and stuff. I've seen it in a few different animes. I've always just took it as a way of letting people know that don't judge a book by its cover. Please don't watch this, or if you want to watch it, give it a chance. But if at any point you're thinking, just one more episode, I know something is going to happen that is going to make this anime really good all of a sudden, just stop it there. It'll never happen. Helpful. That's actually a really good tip. If you've been watching like 10 episodes and you haven't enjoyed any of them, but you think all of a sudden there's going to be an episode that's going to change your mind, a lot of times that's not going to happen. And I think that's an overall good assessment. It's a good thing to say. And though this anime doesn't have a lot of different settings, and that's one thing about it that a lot of people really put to it being a lackluster plot, is that it's not constantly moving, exploring, and going places. I'd say it's more like psychologically driven than people realize, even people who enjoy the show. It has to do with overcoming things, overcoming yourself, your past, obstacles, even if you don't have to travel far and wide to do it. So yeah, I mean, in this case, if you're expecting to defeat a bad guy every episode or something, like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Okay, that'll be the last review that I'll read, because let's be honest, I don't want these bad reviews to rub off on me somehow. After you hear things a bunch of times, all of a sudden you start to believe it. Yeah, not gonna happen with me. These people are not gonna convince me to stop liking the show, so I gotta stop while I can. So this was reading bad reviews of ReZero. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you would like a part 2. Are there any points that they made that you agree with? Are there any points that I made that you agree with? And do you have your own take on the series and what you believe, some things you disliked or really liked about it? Let me know in the comments down below. I would really like to know. I love having conversations with y'all, especially about ReZero. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like, and if you really enjoyed, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'd love to see you in some future content, and maybe one day I can even buy an anime car. And of course, as you noticed throughout the video, there are other ReZero videos, so if you're interested in those, please be sure to go watch, and hopefully you enjoy. It's Triz, hope to catch you in another video.